Hello, the topic of this video is how to make your own do-it-yourself text-to-paste. You can use the text-to-paste for standard text to art, mixed media, or crafts and decor projects. So in addition to using the text-to-paste on canvas to create standard text to art, you could use it, for example, on this transparent glass vase and transform it into a nice do-it-yourself craft project. We'll start by going over my basic recipe for your own text-to-paste. We'll then discuss coloring it, changing its consistency, and how to go from smooth to coarse text to paste. And in the end, we'll discuss how to store it properly. My text to paste recipe is really simple. It has only 2 ingredients, but in order for it to work, they need to be the right type of ingredients. And the ingredients are filler and paint. Some people also like to include, for example, water or wood glue or white glue in their text to paste recipes, but after some experimentation, I found them to have no real effect on the quality of the paste. And I also like to keep things simple, so my recipe is simply paint and filler. Now let's start with the first ingredient, which is filler. And by filler, I mean the general category of products that I use to fill holes and cracks in walls, such as plaster, joint compound, and renovation filler. And what I have here is a local Finnish brand renovation filler. And the tricky part here is that not all fillers work. Some fillers work very nicely, but others crack and crumble off the canvas. With a lot of different products available and vast regional and brand related differences, what can you do? Experiment. I experimented with 5 different fillers before I found one that works pretty nicely. The 4 different qualities that I look for in a filler intended for text to paste is 1, that it is ready to use, so not in a powder form. Number 2, that it has long enough drying time so that it's not a rapid dry product. And 3, that it can be applied in as a thick layer as possible. And it usually says so on the side of the jar. So for example, here you can see it says filling capacity 4 millimeters without cracking. And in my experience, you can use this on a thicker surface as well, but this is just what the manufacturer says. You can also find other important information on the side of the jar. For example, you can see the drying time here. 2 to 24 hours is plenty enough to create texture art. If it was something like 5 minutes, then it would dry too quickly on your canvas for you to be able to properly work with it. Then the last quality I look for is that it is the least toxic option available. An extra 5th quality you might want to consider is price. The primary reason for doing your own text to paste is your budget. Making your own text to paste from filler tends to be significantly cheaper than buying a ready-made text to paste intended for arts and crafts. So if you're not too tight on the budget, I recommend you rather go to an arts and crafts store and buy one of the ready-made text to paste from there, as they tend to be a lot more durable and convenient to use. Next up is the paint. Ready-made text to pastes tend to be intended to be used with acrylic paints. Acrylics are designed to be used with arts and crafts, and their technical properties make them the recommended option for text to paste and textured art. However, if you don't have any acrylic paint around and you're only looking to create your own sort of single do-it-yourself project and you happen to have some interior paint laying around, you could also use this. So I'd recommend acrylics, but you could also use interior paints. Especially if you get small color sample jars, these tend to be quite a lot more affordable than the acrylic paints. Let's mix some of the paste. So I have a plastic container over here, and then I'll scoop up some filler. We'll do a small batch for now. Then we'll add some paint, and I'll be using the titanium white acrylic paint. The amount of paint you add depends on how fluid you want the paste to be. Some designs are better done with less fluid paste, and then some designs I find easier to do when the paste is more fluid. The rough range that I've been using is 10 to 30% paint to filler. Then we'll start mixing. You'll want to mix the paste really properly so that you will get rid of any lumps and air bubbles. And this might require you a few minutes of heavy mixing. I have now mixed the paste for a few minutes, and as you can see, it is smooth and creamy. And now the paste is ready to be used. So we could now just directly apply this on canvas and start creating textured art, or we could use it for whatever craft project we want to use it for. And as you might have noticed, I used white paint together with white filler to create white texture paste. Now what to do if you want to color the paste? I'll take a small amount of filler here, for example, and let's say we want to mix red paste. I have cadmium red deep hue acrylic paint over here. Can you already guess what happens when I mix this red paint with this white paste? White paste slightly tints down the color of the paint. Now keep in mind, as with acrylic paints, once the texture paste dries, it dries a bit darker color than it is when it's wet. Okay, so now we have smooth white paste and red colored paste. What about if we want to make our smooth paste coarse? You can do that by adding sand to the mix. So what I have here is silica sand that's bought from an arts and crafts store, and we'll just mix that together with the paste. And naturally, by altering the amount of sand you add, you alter how coarse the paste becomes. You have now made your own texture paste and you want to save it to be used later. What can you do? The key thing is to keep the moisture inside the paste. Ideally, you mix the paste in an airtight container, so we could just seal the paste in by closing the lid. We can actually go a step further and we could take some plastic cling wrap and we can use the cling wrap to add another layer of protection against the moisture leaving the jar. So we'll cover the paste with cling wrap and now we'll seal the jar. And now you can store this for later use. Now keep in mind, I've only stored my own do-it-yourself texture paste up to around a week and it was still very usable, but as I haven't stored it for longer, I cannot say what happens if you'd store this, for example, for 1 month, so you will have to try that for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video about making your own texture paste. Thank you for watching and happy creating.